I'm Phoebe Legere. I'm a composer, a songwriter, and a multidisciplinary artist. I'm talking with Rabbi Sol Solomon on Days Gone By on UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, my friends. This is your old pal, your old buddy, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I have to say that I do not reinvent myself very well. I get up in the morning, I do my rabbi things, I go to bed at night, I wake up a day later. Basically, I'm the same person a day older. But there are creative people out there who will morph and change and create wild personae of themselves and make us reconsider who they are and who we are. I know this is all sort of metaphysical and confusing, so I'll drop the bullshit and I'll just say that we have with us a multi-talented musical polymath named Phoebe Legere, and she has been around for quite a few years doing music and performance art, and she is still doing it, as a matter of fact. You can catch her at Dixon Place, downtown in Manhattan, over on Christie Street, from March 7th to March 24th, doing her thing. Her latest thing is called Speed Queen. We'll talk to her about that. But let me tell you, she came up in an era of Madonna and Laurie Anderson and Grace Jones, before Katy Perry, before Lady Gaga. She's a morph of all of these things. She's Phoebe Legere, and she's here. Shalom, Phoebe.
Shalom Alechem.
Oh, you got the Alechem part. That's very well done.
Well, peace to you, my friend. I've been following your show, and it's fascinating.
Well, thank you. Oh, fascinating. Not entertaining, not good, but fascinating. This is, okay.
Oh, it's all of those things. It's smart and funny and spiritual, and I just love where you're coming from. I like your vision, Rabbi.
Well, actually, I'm wearing prescription glasses, but I appreciate that you like my vision here. And you've done some visionary things, too, because you are not your typical Joni Mitchell-esque singer-songwriter pianist, writes a song, performs it. Yeah, Joni's obviously a genius. But you have whole other components going on. So explain to people how you do what you do.
Well, it's interesting you say Joni Mitchell, because I was lucky enough to play with her on 2 occasions.
Yeah.
And then to spend time after the shows talking with her at great length about a number of subjects. And I found her to be highly intelligent, very thoughtful, and like me, she practices several art forms. She's most famous for writing songs, but she's a passionate painter, a magnificent human being. Having said that, to talk about myself, of course, it seems to be in very poor taste, really, to talk about oneself, but here we are in a culture where it's all about hype and self-promotion, and I guess I have to say something, so I'll say that I'm a composer, I'm a painter, I'm a poet, I'm interested in all of the arts. I'm deeply interested in science, and I often combine science with my arts, science, engineering, and mathematics. I'm very interested in the universe, Rabbi, and to me, the Lord himself is the greatest artist.
Oh, so, wow, so many different directions to go in there. But since I'm a rabbi, I might as well explore that part of it. So you are a theist. Okay. Are you of a particular religious bent, or are you just bent like I am?
I have studied many religions, and I have taken many ideas from them. You know, I live in New York City, Rabbi, so I'm exposed to many different ethnicities and ideas about what is sacred. I have put these things together in my head. I've combined Buddhism, Judaism, shamanism. I've even taken ideas from Islam, which has some wonderful, wonderful components. My real background, ethnically, is Native American, but I was raised in a Jewish family, a secular Jewish family.
Oh, I did not know that.
So I've been able to find parallels between all of these religions, and I think about these things often. That's why I was so really eager to speak with you, because I know that you are a sincerely faith-filled person.
Me? What program have you been listening to, man? No, I'm kidding. You're kind of a Shama Buddha Islamist, but I'm Jewish, and I believe in morality more than spirituality. I tend not to be...
So you're a humanist?
Yeah, I would say that. But I mean, I have both feet on the ground and my elbows on the ground as well. You know.
Very good.
I may be looking at the stars, but I'm not reaching for them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, very good. Well, Rabbi, though I have this really deep connection, I feel, to universal love and peace, which is my word for the Lord, I nonetheless get my ideas, all of my artistic ideas come to me from, I believe that art is a message from another world, and I get every one of my inspirations coming from somewhere else. Some people call it the angels, maybe it's the universe. I don't know where it's coming from, but I get a very clear idea and a very clear direction. And often these things turn out to be visions of the future. So I got an idea as I was walking along. Actually, I was on Essex Street, those of you who know New York City.
Schmolke Bernstein's, the Chinese restaurant that used to be on Essex Street. Oh, do you remember Schmolke Bernstein's? You wouldn't, maybe, but no?
No, but I also...
That's spirituality to me.
Woo, yes, Chinese food. I often go to King Wu Noodle, and as I was walking back from eating Chinese, I got the idea that it would be great to do a musical about a woman named Jo Carstairs. She was the world champion speedboat racer, and she actually set the world speed record for motorboat racing in 1926. She was the heir to the Standard Oil fortune, so she lived very large. She was a billionaire, and she had many glamorous movie star girlfriends, including Tallulah Bankhead, Marlene Dietrich, Garbo, Mabel Mercer, and 140 others. She won many races in England, and she lived during the Roaring '20s. I thought, what a great idea for a musical, and I'll play Jo Carstairs. So I am playing this wonderful action hero. She used to wear very tailored clothes. In fact, she was a cross-dresser. She dressed like a man, because in those days, women certainly were not considered to be the equals of males as they are today.
Well, some people consider them equal. I think they're about 93% equal. Yeah, not quite. I'm
no,
kidding.
Rabbi.
Kidding.
You're very wrong. No. We're much better, really.
Oh.
What we say publicly is that we're your equal.
That's already fifth-wave feminism. It's like we're 110% better than men. So is her sexuality in part of it, too? I mean, you mentioned all her friends tended to be lesbians, yes. I'm assuming.
Yes. Actually, I call it kid-friendly lesbianism, because this work is definitely family-friendly.
Ah, okay.
It is G-rated.
So there's no scissoring. I got it, yes.
It could be a Disney, that's right. Of course, there's no obscenity, no pornography at any time. But what I are the depths of these female friendships and the way in which some of the most famous women in early Hollywood were members of what Truman Capote called the International Daisy Chain, a network of friends, of amazing, creative, highly intelligent, gorgeous women who all helped each other and supported each other in the arts, in their love, and in their ambition to make movies and to write screenplays. So it's been a wonderful journey, and at the climax of my play, I get into my motorboat and I fly through the theater.
Whoa!
I have one of the most famous riggers, Riggers,
yeah,
in the business, and I'm going to go up into the rigging and fly above the audience in my magic motorboat.
Good Lord! And is this beyond foy already? I mean, because you're in the boat. The boat is flying, you're not flying, but are you on a harness? Just in case?
I will be holding on to the rope, certainly very tightly. I do not have a safety at this time. We're just working on the rigging. Maybe we'll put a safety in. But at this time, I'm just flying without a safety net. So I know that often audiences like to come hoping that their favorite stars will die. To buy a ticket, it's cheap. We open March 7th. That's my preview. And then have dates after that, weekend dates for 3 weeks. I play many instruments, Rabbi. I don't know if you have ever seen me, but...
Accordion?
I play accordion. I play the piano was my first instrument. I consider that to be my major instrument. I play the guitar. I play the Native American flute, and I sing, and I have a very large vocal range. And that's one reason that I'm able to play 8 different characters in one show.
So it's also kind of a musical.
It is absolutely a full-blown musical. Speed Queen, the tagline is sex, speed, and high society. Book and music by Phoebe Legere.
Well, wait a minute. You just said it was a G-rated musical, and you started for appropriate for everybody. It's sex and speed, which are the two things that almost ruined in the 1970s.
Well, she was called the Speed Queen because she was the speedboat racing queen of the world. She drove a speedboat. And as far as sex goes, Rabbi, none of us would be here without sex.
This is very true. But let me ask you a question of, since we're talking feminism in a certain context, you have this very sweet, sexy woman voice, which is part of a put-on. No, I mean, that's part of a persona, I believe. You don't necessarily talk like that all the time, and there's a Marilyn Monroe-esque...
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
What?
This is the way that I talk to save my voice, because when I go on stage, I sing in a huge belt.
Mm.
So I actually developed... Marilyn talked in a breathy voice because she didn't like her real voice. But this is actually my real voice, and I challenge you to call me at any time of the day or night if you think this is a put-on.
Well, all right. I perhaps should not have used that phrase, but I assumed it was
That's right, darling.
Okay. Well, come on, that's put on right there.
Be nice, Sugar Plum.
I wasn't trying to be not nice. I don't think it's wrong. For someone who is a performance artist and whose every move when you go on stage is performative, from what you are wearing to the makeup to the things you're building.
No. If you're, may I just
please
straighten you out for a moment? If it's a good performance, you're not performing. You are absolutely your authentic self. And if you're performing, if you're acting, if it's an act, it's bullshit.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the people like I mentioned in the intro. Lady Gaga. She's not wearing meat going to the store, because they charge her for it. They try and run it on the scanner and make her pay for it. So, there's a Lady Gaga who is out there and performing. And then there's a woman who goes home and writes songs and feeds the dog and has a relationship and a life. It doesn't mean that her performance is bullshit, or does it? Hello? Oh.
I've never seen her. I'm sorry, I really can't talk about that artist. I'm not aware of her.
All right, well then, Madonna. Let's go back to that then.
Oh, I would never, Rabbi, I would never comment on another artist. Other entertainers are blood for me, and I would never criticize them. Never.
Okay, but it's not about it's about...
Very good friend. Madonna's a very good friend and highly professional. She's done some wonderful work.
But you wouldn't say that what she does in a video is bullshit, but it isn't what she is day to day. She doesn't dress like that. She doesn't, if she's taking care of her kids, she's not out there in a push-up pointy silicone bra and saying, justify my love or Papa don't preach.
I really can't spend my time today, darling, analyzing pop culture performers. I'm a different kind of artist.
Okay, so in your kind of
art... I'm not a corporate creation. I am working at Dixon Place, which is a nonprofit where real work is done. Mm. It is an incubator for real plays.
All right, but
it's very, very different from the corporate really creations that you're talking about.
Fair enough. But even you're not going to take your shaman cycle and go buy some eggs. You're going to take a bicycle or a car, but when you're on that shaman cycle, you're making a point.
When I was...
Yeah.
I don't know if your audience knows about the shaman cycle.
Well, explain.
May I tell them about it?
Yeah, I said please do, yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, Rabbi Solomon is talking about a rideable sculpture that I created in 2013. It is a vehicle that runs on alternative fuel, and it is a giant eagle puppet. The head moves when you turn the wheel, the wings move, and there is a stage on top where I can perform. I built it so that all of my friends could ride through the desert together. And I've now made 2 of them. I just sold one to a Saudi man who has 4 wives. They are not allowed to drive. And so they are going to be taking their shaman cycle through the desert. And they're so happy. I built a special tent over it so that the women could be shaded because, of course, they're veiled, and so they get very hot. And we're going to have special air conditioning, all running on alternative fuel. I built the shaman cycle, and you can see it at shamancycle.com. I built this vehicle. It was a vision that came to me in a dream, and I built it all from junk cars. I went to junkyards, and I dismantled cars that had been in terrible accidents, took the axles and the seats and all of the parts that I needed, and I transformed and transmuted the junk, the detritus of these violent, tragic crashes I transformed them into this gorgeous, shining eagle. And so, in fact, when I was in the desert, riding the shaman cycle with my 15 friends, we actually did go down the street, and we did buy scrambled eggs.
Oh, okay.
That happened in Colorado, and there's actually a movie of this, which you can search on the internet, but that happened in Grass Valley, California. But we then took it over to Nevada, and then brought it into Colorado, and we've had a great reception. Yes, it absolutely goes down the street, and we love to shop using the shaman cycle dye.
You win. That you are living your art even in the day-to-day. It is...
Yes, it's very different. It's very different. When you're in the underground, you can live it. When you're a corporate, when you're just the tits on the front of a corporate wagon, you have to do what the focus groups say you have to do, what the accountants say you have to do, what the stylists say you have to do. And if they say, this is your act, you must do it. I am so blessed and so honored to only have one boss, and that is the Lord.
My goodness. Now, when did you you must have realized at a fairly young age that you were not just talented, but a little different from everybody else. What were your clues?
Yes, I began to play the piano at age 3. Mm-hmm. As soon as I could reach up and touch the keyboard, as soon as I could reach it, as soon as I could grab it, I got it. I was lucky. I was so lucky. The Lord often puts the people I need in my path. And there was a music teacher, a piano teacher, right across the street. As soon as I could walk, I walked across the street and I sat on her front step and began to cry and said, let me in. She let me in and she gave me piano lessons, and that's how it began.
For free? She taught you for
free. All my teachers have taught me for free.
But it's one thing for a kid to be talented or even a prodigy, and it's quite another to have a personality that is outside, large, and different, and creatively, there's the word bent again, and realize that the other kids are just normal by comparison.
I was always lucky. I grew up in a suburb in Massachusetts, and I was always very, very blessed to have brilliant friends. Who not only kept right up with me, but led me in new directions.
Well, that's cool. And eventually, where did you grow up again? Massachusetts?
I grew up in Massachusetts, yes, a little town in Massachusetts, and I had a friend whose brother was hanging around with the top poets and intellectuals and Andy Warhol. We were little kids, and he was telling us about all these things that were going on with these great writers, and then I was lucky enough to meet Larry Rivers, one of the great Jewish painters here in New York. I went away from home at age 15.
Whoa. Okay. Time out. So, was running away from home a response to what was going on at home, or you just had to get to New York?
Well, it's a very good question. Thanks for your interest in my life. I appreciate it very much, Rabbi. You're very generous. actually, I was offered a job playing music in a club in New York. They saw me. I was the star of every musical, and from the time I was 3, they were throwing me on stage because I could sort of sing anything and play anything and act and all that stuff. And so somebody saw me when I was 15, and they said, "Oh, come to New York and you can play the piano in our restaurant." And it turned out to be Cafe Reginette on Park Avenue. So at age 15, I was working for Regine, one of the most sophisticated people in the world.
Whoa.
And she taught me many, many important things about a life in show business.
Well, did your
So
parents...
I wanted to work. I wanted to make money. I mean, I wasn't making any money babysitting and running.
Well, you were 15. You should be making just enough cash to get some snacks or something. I mean, it wasn't like you were 23.
Well, I was supporting myself from age 15 and living alone, and I live in the same place. I moved into a squat here on the Lower East Side, and I am sitting in that place. It became a legal residence, and I'm still in the same place.
And now it's worth about $4,000 a month. That's New York for you.
The people upstairs are paying $3,500. The tenement. It was actually built for Jewish immigrants 100 years ago in 1900. And by a strange coincidence, the character of my play, Speed Queen, Sex, Speed, and High Society, opening March 7th at Dixon Place, 161 Christie Street, New York, New York. The main character, Joe Carstairs, was born in 1900, the same year that this slum was built.
Oh, well, I mean, are they gentrifying around you, or is it still slum-esque?
All around me. All around me. In fact, I am looking outside, right outside my window of this tenement. I'm looking through the metal bars, and there is the most gorgeous, it looks like an Italian palazzo, and I can see down into their window. Nobody's moved in yet. I'm sure they're going to sell each apartment or condo for $11-12 million, and I can look into that window. And it's a very funny thing about the Lord. Often you will have what you want right in front of you. It's the funny thing about life. You can't have everything you want. But what I have, Rabbi, what I do have, is I have my stories, and I have my songs, and I have my freedom, and I have my friends.
Well, a song lyric. I'm just thinking of a song lyric that came to me. You can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you get, it's coming, what you need. Oh, I should write that down. That'd be a hell of a song.
Well, of course, it's Mick Jagger, and I was lucky enough to have dinner with Mick Jagger.
Oh, come on. How did you meet
Mick? On an occasion, yes, I did, because I was signed to Epic Records at age 16. And so at that time, Mick was on the label. And the person who signed me was the head of Rolling Stone Records, Earl McGrath. And he invited me up to a dinner party, and I went up. I was just thinking about it the other day, and I brought some little friend that I had from the Lower East Side, and we were talking about slum life and walking up 5 flights of stairs and how we were going to get enough money to eat. And Mick Jagger was talking about his formal rose garden. So it was really there was a great gulf really between the two classes of artists. It was very interesting to see it. Yes, we were on the same label, Epic Records. Well, I knew him, and I knew Michael Jackson, who was adorable, and I opened for David Bowie on his national tour, and I've known a lot of big stars.
Well, now I know you don't want to, shall we say bad things about stars, but we'd love to hear stories or anecdotes about them as people, or something funny.
I know you like that. That's why I went there, because I know you like that.
Okay, so tell us a Michael Jackson story. Was he white or black when you knew him? Or somewhere in the middle?
I would never comment on that. I mean, actually, his transition to what we might call, on the very surface, his transition to some kind of superficial whiteness says volumes about what was going on in the record business at that time. Until 1985, no person of color was on MTV. He absolutely broke the mold. He was a brilliant person and extremely encouraging to me, because I was signed so young. I was signed at 16, but I looked about 12. I was suffering a lot of abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and particularly musical abuse, because it was a very, very bad time in the music business when they realized they didn't need real musicians. Everything could be done with machines. So they were able to bully people into making this homogenized, very...
well, all these synthesizers and the bad drum sounds. And
bad drum sounds, the 808 drums. So they didn't think they needed me. They had no respect for musicians anymore. And he could see that they were torturing me. And he was very, very kind, because he knew that they were planning to make me into the biggest star in the world. And I was supposed to do certain things on my side in order to make that happen, give certain favors and so forth. And I was just too young to really be able to do that. And Michael Jackson could see that I was being absolutely tormented by these much, much older, male executives in their 40s and 50s. So he was very compassionate and very kind, and he said to me one time, Phoebe, I would like to produce a record for you. And it didn't happen, but I was very deeply impressed. And he was a very spiritual person, by the way, Rabbi.
Oh, no, that I believe. But it's funny, this even brings it back totally unintentionally to the whole voice thing, because I've heard people say that when he would talk like this in public in an interview, but when he would actually talk to you like a regular person, he had a deep, normal kind of male voice. So was he saving his voice? Or again, was it performance?
Maybe he was saving his voice when I spoke with him, but I found it to be an extremely gentle, I would call it a tender, fluty soprano. And I was sitting in the front row for several of his shows. I was lucky enough to get tickets. He was very kind. He gave me tickets. He said, Phoebe, sit in the front row. I was able to see the whole thing. He was channeling some very supernatural energies.
But here you are talking about these record executives and these people who are asking you to do things that borderlined abuse. Do you see the dark side of Michael Jackson with what he might have done with people a little too young to do those things with?
I didn't see any of that, and as I say, I will not pass judgment on any fellow performer. One thing that I will say, Rabbi, if you want to go into a deep analysis of psychology, we all know that people who have been abused as children are very susceptible to, if they don't make it conscious, to repeating that abuse to the next generation. We know that abuse gets passed on.
Were you abused by your family, or did that start kind of later when you moved and went on your own?
No, it started in the music business.
Oh, okay. All right. Is there anybody you want to call out by name, since this is Me Too time in America?
No, I haven't actually, I think everyone will notice that I have not joined the Me Too voices.
Because?
I have not, because, well, first of all, there were some very famous people involved. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
There were some famous people involved, and I've already told you my rule.
Whoa, it's one thing to say something.
Will not pass judgment. You
can pass judgment on somebody who tried to rape you.
Hey, Rabbi, I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
I'm not going to go there right now. Maybe talk to me in a few weeks. Maybe a few. I got a show to open. I can't get involved with Me Too. I got more important things to do. It's past. It happened.
Okay. All right. I mean, wow, we could have a half-hour argument just about that. But all right. Let's remind people then, first of all, that we're talking with Phoebe Legere, who's doing Speed Queen at Dixon Place.
Rabbi.
What?
It's a very good accent.
Well, I'm trying. I can't roll an R, but I can certainly do the guttural, phlegmy kind of Legere. See,
It's very nice, very wet.
Oh, I love how you can turn. You're getting so angry there, and now it's like, ooh, I'm plugging your show, so you have to be nice to me. So, PhoebeLegere.com is the place to find out more about everything she does, including her music.
Thanks for the plug.
Oh, of course, and as well as seeing Speed Queen at the Dixon Place on Christie Street from March 7th through March 24th. And for more information about that show and that venue, DixonPlace.org. By the way, let me ask you this though: you're running.
Tickets are selling out, so buy it.
Buy it now. As soon as this conversation is over, get on the interwebs. Go to DixonPlace.org.
Get on it. Get on the phone.
Right now. Right this second, as a matter. Oh, wait. Well, let's just take a pause.
A big following.
We'll wait while you dial. Okay. Oh, you're on hold waiting for Ticketmaster? Okay. We'll talk while that's happening. So, but let me ask you. You're doing this particular production, and as you said, you've got these great, amazing people who are flying you on a boat and a thing, and that's got to cost. How do you make it? If you're only doing 3 weekends, you're not even doing 8 shows a week, I think. How do you fund that? Or is it grant funded? Is it? Did you do a Indiegogo or something?
No, I didn't do that. I was the commission from Dixon Place for 2018, and so I got some help on that side. And then I have a couple of people who came, a couple of angels came in. And we're still, I have an offer to move it to 2 new theaters.
Ooh.
I'd like to go with a bigger production with a full chorus and dancers. So we're looking for more angels. So if anybody likes this story, it's very, very exciting. I think it's going to be a big success. It's a particularly important story for right now, because this play is dedicated to all of the my sisters, my feminist sisters who have gone before. And there was a time when to be a strong woman, to show leadership, brought you abuse, and people just tried to crush you. And that certainly was done to me when I was young, and showed how powerful I am in my music. And I'm not saying that I'm that aggressive or assertive, but in my music, I have my power, my virtuosity. And I've fought for that by practicing 8 hours a day for many, many years, and learning the incredibly complicated science of music. And I'm a composer. Female composers were not accepted for thousands of years. They didn't want women on the stage. They didn't want female composers. They didn't want women in the orchestra. So as that changes, I think it's important for us to pay homage to the foremothers, as we call them. And one of them would definitely be the great Jo Carstairs.
Let me ask, talking of music and studying the science of music, I heard somewhere, or saw you say somewhere, that you actually wanted to make music for the first time when you heard grasshoppers rubbing their thighs together to chirp? Or is that just apocryphal?
Oh, no, that's true. Oh, no, that is absolutely true. Well, here's how the story goes. I wrote my first actual composition at age 6. I didn't write it down, but I composed it in my head, and I came in to where my mother was in the kitchen, and I said, I have a new song, and she said, well, what is it? And I said, it's called Grasshopper Willie. And I sang it to her. Grasshopper Willie, where are you? You know, so it's Juvenalia.
Oh, sure, of course.
And
I love Juvenalia.
And she said, where did you get that? And I said, well, a grasshopper sang that to me, and that's the song. That's where I got it. He taught me that song. That's all I can tell you, Rabbi. That's all I know.
No, I put the Jew back in Juvenalia. I'm telling you about that. No. I was kidding. But that's by the way, forgive me for not mentioning in your intro, but a few years ago you were actually nominated for a Pulitzer Prize, which is kind of way cool. So what project was that?
Oh, thank you so much for asking, sweetheart. That was in 2001. I wrote an epic poem called The Water Clown. And it was about water issues that have since that time become very, very au courant. You know, now everybody's talking about water. Now they realize they might get thirsty. They're realizing the water is so important to human life. But I knew it even in 2001, and I wrote a 22-minute epic poem, which I sang with the Cleveland Chamber Symphony, a very high-level, incredible orchestra in Cleveland, Ohio. And you can read this poem, and you can download that work for 99 cents if you search Phoebe Legere, Water Clown. You can hear it, or if you're really interested, I'll send it to you because I want everybody to hear it. It's quite avant-garde. It's symphonic new music, as we say, contemporary classical music. And, you know, I studied classical
tell you,
So
Phoebe, I put the Jew back in Juilliard, too. I did. I don't even know. I'm sorry. Good, continue.
And so that's all. Yeah, that's what it's about. It's called The Water Clown, and yes, I was nominated for the Pulitzer.
Did that change your life? Did it help your economics? Did it help your career trajectory? Or was it exciting for a few weeks and then back to normal?
I'm so focused on my work. I was already on to the next project when that happened, and the next project was an opera. I got a New York State Council of the Arts grant to write an opera about one of my ancestors named Queen Weetenmoo, who was a Native American chief. She was really, the opera is called The Queen of New England.
No, wait. In Native Americans, or First Nations, whatever you want to call it, they didn't have queens. How was she called Queen Weetenmoo?
Yes, they did. She's called Queen Weetenmoo because she was a chief. There were no males in her family, and she inherited her family kingdom, which was basically Rhode Island and a large part of coastal Massachusetts. She then married Wamsutta, who was the brother of King Philip, who is famous from King Philip's War. His name really was Metacomet. And together they basically owned New England. Of course, as you know, King Philip was the son of the Massasoit who helped the Pilgrims so much. King Philip had the idea that he was going to kill all the white people in New England, and he only was able to kill about 7,000. Queen Weetenmoo didn't want to join him, but the Puritan fathers would not speak to a woman in those days. She had a large army. She had an army of 500 men. She had 300 canoes, and she was not only the political leader as chief, but also the spiritual leader. And so I thought, what a perfect subject for an opera. So I was already deep into composing this opera, and I performed it with 11 Native American musicians and 11 classical musicians. And you can, if you do a search for Queen of New England, Phoebe Legere, you can see some excerpts from that opera.
Is all art political?
I would say that good art, for art to have teeth, Rabbi, it has to be political. You have to make a little bit of a statement that way. You have to come out basically on the side of morality, or it has no teeth. However, I sometimes say all art is pornography.
Whoa, all right. Explain. I wish it were. It'd be a lot more fun to go to a museum. How is all art pornography?
Well, wait a minute. Let's look at what you just said. When you go to a museum, how do you what's in your mind after you come out of a museum? How does it look to you, all those paintings?
Well, I don't need Kleenex and Vaseline.
Isn't it breasts and derrieres?
Well, yes, but you're not looking...
Is it really
yeah.
bumps and boobs in the art museum? Okay, it's pornography, honey. Before there were photographs, there were artists.
Oh, sure. I mean...
People can put a gold frame around it. People can add a spiritual component, but really, it's pornography. And if you look at the videos being made by these corporate artists, not real artists, but the corporate artists, if they're making it, if they're really selling, that company is forcing them to do pornographic videos right on the edge of obscenity, always.
To an extent. Whoa, first.
You can't argue with me. I was in the belly of the beast. I was on Epic Sony for my 3 most important formative years. It is pornography. Now, if you want to go into a more spiritual, analytical, philosophical direction, as contemporary classical music does, you're going to shrink your audience to the size of about 500 worldwide. That's what we estimate. And so that is why, when I got the Pulitzer nomination, it didn't change anything. Because the audience of really smart people that want something beyond pornography is so small, such a small niche. The internet has helped me get to more people, I would say, to more smart people in, remote places.
Well, are you divorcing, let's say...
audience.
Are you divorcing pornography from just sex? In other words, is there, if you see a Flemish painter do a bowl of fruit, is that food porn? Are you kind of going there?
Totally. Are you kidding? What, are you kidding?
What?
Kidding me? You don't know that? You don't know it's food porn?
All right, that's why I'm asking. I wanted to make sure that you're using a very broad...
Think about it for a second. Very broad. I'm painting with a very broad brush.
Okay, there you go.
We don't have much time. We don't have a lot of time, Rabbi.
Right, okay. Oh, well, that's true. So, here's another question. When you were coming up and doing these things in the early 1980s and making your name and
no, I didn't. I really begin to be known in the early 90s is when I began to get famous. When I opened for Bowie, I had 3 hit movies and 2 hit records on college radio, college hits. And that's when I began to be famous. So you may see on the internet that I'm associated with the 80s. I was a little kid in the 80s. I wasn't doing my real work.
Okay.
A little street kid. I was a street kid on the greatest street in the world, Avenue A. But I was just a little kid.
But putting the idea of who you are together as an artist, right? And making these creations and joining welding and industry along with science, along with music, along with different forms of music, from everything from French chanson to Cajun to rock and pop, etc. and so forth. When you were doing it, not a lot of women or even men were necessarily doing that. Now, 30 years later, anything
Absolutely
goes.
Not. And the fact that I embraced the accordion because of my, because obviously I'm a Native American with French-Canadian roots. I embraced the accordion because I loved it, and I'd heard it played in my family, and that made me a pariah. Nobody was doing that. I was absolutely out of it.
Well, Weird Al, but and Judy Tenuta, essentially. So if you mix them together...
I preceded Judy Tenuta with the accordion. Absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Absolutely.
Fine. But Weird Al...
You're going to talk art history. He wasn't in the East Philly. He came out of the polka tradition in the Midwest. I mean, I love it, Weird Al. I'd love to open for him. But we were operating in completely different worlds.
Oh, sure. I wasn't trying to say who was...
There's a famous polka man.
Well, yeah.
Coming out of that culture, and I was coming out of the art world culture of New York City. People were not playing the accordion anymore. Trust me.
No, I get. In fact, that is the question I was going towards, which was: is it harder now that anything goes, that we can put on cable TV and see virtually any artist doing anything? Is it harder to make
I would say, in response to that, it's a very good question. In response to that, all I can say is, because of YouTube, nobody dies. So am I going to turn on some shitty... Am I going to listen to Katy Perry? I mean, she's fine. She's wonderful. I love her. I love her to death. I love her to pieces. But am I going to listen to one of these new people when I can hear, one of the greats from the past? I can turn on YouTube. I can hear George M. Cohen. I can hear Caruso. You know what I mean? Nobody dies. That's a problem.
That's a beautiful...
Yeah.
No, but my question was, is it harder to create new things and stand out when there are 100 people who are performance...
Yeah. Rabbi, don't ask me about standing out. I stand out. I don't have that problem.
Fair, okay. There's no question that Phoebe Legere stands out. And she will be standing out on the stage of Dixon Place, doing her Play with Music and Flying Speed Queen. This is happening from March 7th through March 24th. For more information, go to dixonplace.org, or to find out much more about her and hear her music. Obviously, she's all over YouTube, but you can see at her website, PhoebeLegere.com. Phoebe, the usual way, Legere, Legere. It's like leg before. It's leg air.
Wait.
What?
And my records are all over iTunes. And buy them. Buy the music. Support living artists. And my paintings are there. You can buy my paintings and buy my products.
Okay. Well, you're certainly not shy about promotion. That there's nothing wrong with that. Last question for you, Phoebe. I mean, it's been delightful. I know we've had our abrasive moments, but I think we've had a lot of fun here. So, speaking of supportive artists, what is the Foundation for New American Art?
Oh, bless your heart for asking. It is my nonprofit because here in New York City, 80% of the school children in the public schools have no art and music. And having come from my background of being a street kid, I know the kinds of things that kids are exposed to on the street every day. And I feel that my life was saved by art and music, and it continues to be saved by art and music every single day. And it is my mission to bring art and music to the low-income children of New York State, and now we have satellite programs in Florida and Maine, and we're expanding. I am the executive director of the Foundation for New American Art. We are nurturing the visionary artists of tomorrow.
Well, then a corollary question. Is it harder now with the new administration in America the past year than it was over the previous 8 to do that part of what you do?
Oh,
okay.
I worked for that man. I had the Liberace job up at the Plaza when he owned the Plaza. And so I actually dealt with him. He was very kind to me.
You're talking about Donald Trump? Yeah.
Yeah, and he paid me very well. And I loved that job. And then he sold the Plaza, and it was bought by some big corporation. And I just loved playing that piano, and I put the candelabra on it just like Liberace, and I wore a tuxedo. And he treated me with great respect and listened to my music and loved it. And I am hoping for a lot of support. I'm getting a lot of support from my Foundation for New American Art. You never know where the support is going to come. You think it's going to come just from the Democrats. You never know where it's going to come. If you pray long enough and loud enough, maybe the Lord will open up the great cosmic golden bank, and maybe some money will fall out so I can give more art and music and nurturing to the kids who need me.
Wow.
It's my real job.
Wow. As a Jew, I feel uncomfortable praying for money because that kind of plays into some stereotypes. But I will. I'll certainly pray for money for your cause. I will. That I can do.
You can do it for me.
I will say brachas for Phoebe Legere, and I pray that you will all go see her do her show Speed Queen at Dixon Place this coming month. Phoebe Legere, all I can say is just been tremendous, intellectual, stimulating, creative fun talking to you. I wish you many more years of music and pioneering excitement in what you do, and shalom to you.
Thank you, Rabbi Solomon. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Shalom.